So I heard about this. A man who had 72 prior arrests in Chicago recently burned a woman to death. And I'm just gonna say this: like he should have been either locked up forever or given the death penalty. There's no way a spreadsheet that big is someone worth dumping back into regular human society. It was like maybe if it was like maybe he had 3 arrests, there's a bit of understanding for that, but 72 at that point, you're a fucking demon, worthless to society, and you should never be released. And this is just another case of one of those judges. Maybe they were overly sympathetic or something, and sympathetic to the criminal that set someone on fire now. But of course, it happened in Chicago too. Let's get into this.
Now to Chicago, where a man who set fire to a woman on a
Yep.
train has been ordered to remain in custody. And
Yeah, he better have been ordered to remain in custody. Like, there is no other choice. Imagine if it said, oh yeah, we fucking detained him after he. No, no, no. Hopefully not. Thank God. Ordered to kept detained, of course. No bail. No bail, no nothing. Hell, he shouldn't even have a defense team. He should be gone by now.
identified 26-year-old woman was riding on public train earlier
Jesus.
this week. She was seated and scrolling on her phone when a man
Uh,
came up to
Another one too. Another unprovoked attack where a guy just brutally kills some random chick. I'm serious. This is like probably the fifth one I've heard in the last like 2 or 3 months right now.
her, poured gasoline over her head and her
Holy
body.
shit.
Then, as she ran away, the man lit fire to a container he was holding and tossed it at her, setting her on fire. He
Yeah,
then stood
that
back
man's
and watched
demonic.
her as her body was engulfed in flames. The woman is miraculously alive and recovering in the hospital.
Oh fuck. Oh, that's damn. She miraculously survived, but I'm just gonna say it. This man needs to go to jail forever. And that judge, all her property should be given to that woman because that judge does not deserve anything. Anything. 72 prior arrests.
And this wasn't some random accidental burning, if such a thing could
Of course it wasn't random. You throw gasoline at someone, you throw a lighter at them. There's no way that's an accident.
ever exist.
That's true.
Prosecutors say this was as premeditated as it gets, that the 50-year-old, a man named Lawrence Reed, allegedly went to a gas station just minutes before the attack.
Oh
Surveillance
god.
video shows him buying and filling up a container of gasoline. He then boards a train, apparently looking for a victim. This attack is getting nationwide attention, not just because it's so heinous, but because it was totally avoidable. Lawrence
Yeah.
Reed.
You look at this guy. You know what I would have been like? Yeah, he deserves to be locked up forever. Like just looking at him. Looking at him, I can tell he's on some type of drugs. He's a felon. It's either jail forever, man. This is
Had been
bullshit.
arrested more than 70 times.
Yeah,
Not 1 7, we're talking 7-0.
bro.
He was convicted in 13 of those cases for battery and arson. Even the city's mayor
13 battery and arson. 13. So not okay. So not only did the judge release him off of 72 arrest, she was like, oh, 13 cases. Oh, he beat someone up. He beat someone up. Oh, he tried to set something on fire. He tried to set something on fire. He tried to set something on fire. Yeah, fuck no. That is
He was
horrible.
shocked at how monumental this failure was to keep him behind bars, both by the city and by the judicial system.
Yep,
This is an
this
absolute
was
failure of
avoidable.
our criminal.
Like, shut the fuck up, you dumbass bitch. This is your fault. This is your soft on crime policy's fault.
Justice as well as our mental health institutions. This individual was charged with dozens of felonies over the past 3 decades. The system
Yeah.
that we had failed to intervene.
Lawrence Reed will now finally stay locked up and faces charges of terrorism, but it's
Oh, thank God. He needs to, yeah, terrorism charges. He needs to get that. This might be a rare Chicago W.
a story we hear about all too often. It was barely 2 months ago when another young woman on a train was
Yeah,
murdered while minding her own business. Irina Zarutska was
yeah.
stabbed to death in Charlotte, North Carolina. That crime also committed by a repeat offender with a documented long mental health history.
Yeah, another innocent girl lost to the same bullshit.
Joining me now is Keith
We don't have
Humphreys.
to
He's a
live like
professor
this.
of psychiatry at Stanford University and was a drug
I don't need a professor of psychiatry. I just look at the spreadsheet and be like, yeah, this guy needs a firing squad on his ass.
policy advisor for Presidents Obama and Bush. Also joining me is Manhattan Institute senior fellow Rafael Mangual. Rafael, I'm going to start with you. 70 arrests, 13 felony convictions. Why was this guy still on the street?
Exactly.
Well, he was still on the street because a lot of our policymakers have made the fundamental error of committing to decarceration for its own sake. I know.
Yeah, and it's completely retarded, dangerous, and the worst part is, a lot of the people that do this don't even live in the neighborhoods they release these people to. So they're releasing them onto, like, poor, vulnerable neighborhoods, or, like, public spaces that people are vulnerable in, while these guys get to live a nice luxury life away from the problems they let out in society again.
That these stories are very shocking to the people that hear them when they hear a number like that. But, really, that's the uninitiated. To people who have been following this issue closely, this is not out of the realm of sort of usual course of business. We have dozens of people who are constantly churning their way through the court system every single day who have criminal histories that are just as troubling. What we've failed to do as a society is to draw a line in the sand as to repeated criminal offending and say,
I'll say it. Three. If you have 3 violent charges of any kind, boom, your 4th time, it's either slavery forever in jail or death penalty. Simple. That's it. That's all I need. 3.
beyond this point, no more.
Keith, this comes as there has been an increasing call in taking people who are clearly mentally ill, who are clearly addicted to drugs.
Oh, I fucking hate that argument. I don't care that he's mentally ill. Like, nah, fuck no. He needs to be locked up. He shouldn't be put back into society just because people are like, oh, he's mentally ill. Like, this guy's a fucking demon. Hell no. There ain't no mentally ill in that. He was smart enough to buy gas. He was smart enough to fill up a bag of gas and then smart enough to throw a lighter at someone. That shows he has some cognitive. That shows he's cognitively able to know what he's doing.
Don't know in this case if this man was either one of those or both of those, but we do know he was a repeat offender. Do you think this is going to add more momentum now to that push that we all, those of us who live and work in urban areas, can be walking down the street and see people who clearly shouldn't be on the street?
Yeah, I think it will add momentum in it, and it should. I mean, the good news is most people who are seriously mentally ill are not violent. They're far more likely to actually be victims of violence than to be violent. The bad news is there is a subpopulation of people who are a threat to public safety, and the profile is, mentally ill, overwhelmingly male, usually long years of contact with the criminal justice system and the mental health system that has failed, and very frequently substance use, particularly alcohol, crack cocaine, methamphetamine, drugs that are linked to aggression. And we have failed to deal with this population, we being both the mental health system and the criminal justice system.
Rafael, you
I'm glad he said that. Of course, you have both failed. And it should be not repeated again. And reforms from the top to the bottom need to be done at this point. There is no more excuses. These stories come out like every other week of some bullshit happening.
Congress this week calling on Congress to consider passing a bill that would enforce stronger penalties for repeat offenders. What are the chances that'll happen?
I mean, it's hard to say, and one of the reasons that it's hard to say is because the politics of this issue have long been very fraught, right? The reality
fraught with
is
what? Doesn't everybody want somebody who's been arrested 70 times to not be walking the streets freely to set fire to women on trains?
Exactly.
You would think so, but the reality is that many Democrats in this country have fundamentally opposed measures that would have taken people like this off the street. They have opposed measures like pretrial release policies that create rebuttable presumptions of detention for people with lengthy criminal histories. They have opposed, three strikes regimes or habitual offender statutes that subject individuals who have repeated run-ins with the criminal justice system to lengthy sentencing enhancements. These are the answers to the problems that we are all upset about. But the reality is that there are a few people who are political leaders who just refuse to go down this road. And it is long past time for them to have to answer for the why. Why is it?
Oh, simple. If you release someone who has, let's say, 10 prior arrests, the judge is required to serve half the time or the entire time of the person's next crime, no matter what it is. 10 might be a little too high, but I'd say that would fix a lot of this bullshit real quickly.
A good idea to have somebody who's been through the system this many times out on the street. I've yet to hear a good answer for that, and yet we see these cases. I mean, these two cases that you're talking about are, they're recent, but they're not outliers. We see this time and time
The
again,
Daniel
month after
Penny,
month.
the Daniel Penny story here in
Yeah.
New York City involved a man who had assaulted people repeatedly on the New York City subway, who was acting in a threatening
Yep.
manner, and who had a documented history of mental illness. I mean, it's just, and we see in many of
Release Daniel Penny.
these big cities, whether it's Chicago, whether it's New York City, whether it's Los Angeles, San Francisco, many of these people use public transit settings because they don't have any place else to go, and especially in the winter, that's the only place that's warm.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And as I told Congress, if you look at these major cities around the country, right, if you look at Chicago, the average number of prior arrests that a shooting or homicide suspect has is 12. In Washington, D.C., it's 11. In Baltimore, Maryland,
Wow.
it's 9. It's 10 in Oakland, California. I mean, go city by city, and what you'll find is that the repeat offender problem is a real one, and it's long past time that we deal with it.
Keith, what do you make of that? Do you think legislation fixes this issue, or is it a matter of not having the facilities to treat people who have mental health issues? And in the case of the man in the Charlotte, North Carolina train stabbing incident, his own mother tried to involuntarily commit him to a mental health hospital and didn't succeed, wasn't able to do so.
Yeah, we need changes both in law and in the available facilities, and it has to be done state by state because that's actually where most of criminal justice and mental health in this country are based. Yeah, I think 80% of the country.
Oh, simple. Go across America and find the worst kept up jail and the most harsh legal system in the states, and just copy that one. Boom. There you go. All your problems are fixed. People are not gonna fuck around because they'll be like, you see those guys there? Yeah, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be stuck in jail forever, eating mashed potatoes for the rest of my life.
Gets this.
There you go.
But the people who fight this issue include a lot who see this fundamentally different, I think, the way I do or way Raphael does, that
Exactly.
they think that somebody is, this is a gross
Basically, basically, they're trying to do the Naruto method, even though occasionally Naruto did kill people. They're gonna be like we gotta be nice to them, we gotta be kind, and eventually their heart would fill up, and then they won't be a big meanie anymore. And what's actually happening is these people are just brutally murdering random people on the street because they know they can get away with it. That's the worst part.
attack on individual liberty to constrain somebody, maybe pressure them into treatment or require treatment because that's who they are and they're being who they are. And as I look at it, as a professor of psychiatry, they're ill. They don't have their freedom, and they should be pressured into treatment so they can restore their reason, which is the root of our liberty.
Yeah, seeing some of the mentally ill people that I
No. I'll just put them in jail forever. There we go. Easy. If you're mentally ill with 72 prior arrests, there ain't no fixing you. You're a demon to society. You need to go. Fuck off.
see on the streets here in New York City, it feels inhumane
Yes.
to let them live this way.
It feels inhumane to let them out and then let random women who did nothing to him get burned in the street, or random young girls get stabbed on the train. I think that's a far more inhumane outcome.
Even though they might not want help, I don't know. Very tough. Thank you both, gentlemen, Raphael Manguel, Keith Humphrey, for joining us on this really difficult difficult topic. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
Yeah,
watching.
this is
Subscribe
fucked up.
below.
But yeah, massive failure in the justice system again. Hell no. Hell no. Well, this is just sad.